How's it going, everybody? It's your boy Jose, TheNYCGeek, aka TNG, aka your Elden Lord. Even on this greatest of weekends, WrestleMania weekend, aka the one who will sit the throne today, aka your tribal chief, aka the guy who wants to talk about wrestling. I mentioned it. It's WrestleMania weekend. Now, I talk about a lot of things I am very passionate about on this channel: pop culture, video games, movies, animes, all games, all that stuff. But I rarely ever get to talk about wrestling. And that's because wrestling, it's a little hard to cover, right? There's multiple shows. There's multiple shows in a week, and there's multiple organizations. And again, this is fun for me and hopefully entertaining for you. But if I was at the point where I was like dedicated to covering wrestling, then it would start to feel like a job. But I've been a longtime wrestling fan since the 80s. It's something I've watched with my parents growing up, and I still watch it regularly. And we're going to be watching it tonight with friends. I still attend live events. Hold on a second. I have just easily had one of the greatest moments of my life, like top five easy. When I met my all-time favorite wrestler, The Undertaker. Okay, I got his autograph. I got to get this baby framed. Who I personally hold him up as the greatest wrestler of all time, hands down. And tonight, like I said, tonight and tomorrow is WrestleMania. And even if you've never watched a wrestling match in your life, you have still likely heard of WrestleMania. Now, I was very excited for this year's WrestleMania. There were some returns that were going to shake things up. CM Punk's return. I'm not a big fan of him, but I can recognize the impact and following that he has. So I was excited for his return. And it looked like we were on our way to the next step in the greatest story that has ever been told in wrestling history, and that's the Bloodline story. Unfortunately, CM Punk was injured at the Royal Rumble. What else is new? In other news, water's wet. And they made Cody a back-to-back Royal Rumble winner. And they have bungled this story with some of the worst booking that I have ever seen in all my years of watching wrestling. If you don't know what booking is, goddamn, it's a wrestling term. I want to get it. Booking is like when a booker is someone who's in charge of putting matches together. And I'm not going to explain everything in wrestling because wrestling, it's too complex to go into just a small video. I'd have to sit here in like an hour or two talking about just terms. But a booker is basically the guy who is in charge of setting up the matches and writing like what's going to happen and the story angles. So when you say booking, it's basically like you're writing, okay? So when I say that this is some of the worst booking I've seen in all my years of watching wrestling, I mean, this is some of the worst writing that I've seen in all my years of watching wrestling. And yes, there have been some wrestling has some awful writing, right? But I mean in the sense that the Bloodline is peak storytelling, okay? And we are seeing it go into some stupid ad-libbing stuff that it's like, so that comparison is what's making it one of the that difference there is what's making it one of the biggest botches that I've seen. Because I'm going to say something right now that is going to infuriate the worst fan base in wrestling right now, okay? And that is that Roman Reigns should not only retain the title at WrestleMania, but this has never been Cody's story to finish, okay? He has been inserted in this storyline multiple times at this point, and they have been ad-libbing it horribly right now, booking on the fly to appease the Cody Crybabies. I keep thinking Cody Crybabies. The Cody Crybabies before they lose their minds on Twitter again. Now, look, I like Cody. I like Cody a lot, actually. I think he's one of the most. Not only do I think he's one of the most talented guys on the WWE roster, I think he's generally one of the nicest dudes there. Okay, we went to a live show and we saw this dude spend 40-something minutes in the midst of like the intermission portion after the match, just signing people's stuff, going up. The dude, you could bring everything, and this guy was signing. You could tell that he genuinely loves to be there, and I wouldn't mind seeing him win the belt eventually. I would not mind that. But let's break down the multitude of reasons why this is bad booking, and you know it. You know it's bad booking, but you don't care, Dave LaGreca and all you other Cody Crybabies, because you're like children and you want your toy now and you'll tantrum otherwise. It doesn't matter how much of a detriment it is to the business or even how harmful this might be to Cody's character. You want it now, wham, 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 okay? So let's go with my first point. And one of the key ones, this was never Cody's story to finish. It has never been his role to begin with, okay? The Bloodline story has had multiple characters that have been elevated due to their involvement in it. Oh, and you can ask, there's a Roman documentary that came out that I still gotta watch. But Giorgito was telling me about it. And you can ask these people have been talking about it. These legends have said how they've never seen a story like this because everyone who is involved has been elevated. Okay, normally an angle between two characters is never elevated an entire roster basically and made new stars. And it's just, but this story has always been about two characters, two. At the end of the day, despite all those other characters that might be involved, that have been involved in it, and those two characters are Roman Reigns and Jey Uso. That's it. This story has been about them. The Bloodline started in that Hell in a Cell match back in 2020 when Roman beat the shit out of Jey, manipulated him into becoming his right-hand man. This has been basically the Emperor and Vader all along, and we've been waiting for that Vader face turn when he would be the one to topple Roman. This is one of the reasons why the Bloodline story has been so engrossing, because there are real life elements that in that story that add believability. The fact that Jey is the little brother and has always felt in their shadow, the fact that they're real life family, that Roman finally turned heel and reshaped his entire character when he was one of the most hated people in wrestling to becoming elevated at that point. And you can hate Roman Reigns all you want. I have my own beef with the guy because I couldn't stand face Roman. I used to hate face Roman. And even still, I have my beef with him. I wish he was on TV more. You know, like they have him on it so sparingly. Like I'd like him even in a promo capacity. Like he doesn't have to have a match every month. I'm fine with that. But I'd like for him to show up every other week or something. But there's no doubting that wrestling as a whole, I'm talking about all over, is in a Renaissance era. And that is because of the Bloodline and the popularity that has resurged because of what Roman has done with his character. And as the Bloodline introduced characters such as Sami Zayn and Solo Sikoa, elevated them from the mid-card to main eventing. Sami Zayn was a joke. I hate to say it because the man's talented, but his character was a nobody. And he's elevated to main eventing WrestleMania. That's huge. And then in 2022, Cody comes back to the WWE. He has like 3 matches with Seth Rollins. He suffers a brutal injury, man, a nasty injury. And he's on the shelf for like 9 months. And then he comes back, 2023, wins the Royal Rumble. And this is where it all started going downhill. Because through no fault of Cody's, this is nothing to do with Cody. Don't get it twisted, nothing to do with the man. But his fan base starts to become rabid. They start to get infected with the people who hate Roman Reigns because he's not around as much. And again, I'm saying I agree with you. I wish he was around more, but that doesn't change the fact that Cody is not the one who should have been beating him. And especially not after 4 matches total in the WWE. And they will sit there. These Cody crybabies will sit there and tell you, you're not counting his AEW. You cannot count the time that he spent in AEW. You can count it, yes, as a wrestling fan, you can count it, but in the world of the WWE, that doesn't exist, okay? So you have to only count his current time. You can't count the time before that, and especially not the time before that, because when he was Stardust, that work of history, that body of matches there, that doesn't equate to being not only the guy that should have won last year, but also stopped Roman from hitting 1,000 days as champion. If you think that Cody deserved that after just 4 matches, you're a brain dead fucking Cody crybaby. Which brings me to another point, and I cannot understate how important this is. We are in the midst of history being made. Last year, Roman Reigns passed 1,000 days in a championship reign. That is unheard of in wrestling modern history. The last time anyone held the belt longer than that was Hulk Hogan back in 1984 to 1988, 40 years ago. Okay, that's a long goddamn time. I know, because I'm old. If Roman leaves Mania right now, still as the champion, you could bet your car, you could bet your house that they're at that point gonna keep the belt on him long enough to surpass Hogan's record. That will make him the third longest reigning champion in WWE history. And there are some bad actors who have said that doesn't matter because it's only third place. If that is your argument for this somehow not mattering, then that is super disingenuous and it's wrong. Because listen, Bruno Sammartino and Bob Backlund's championship reigns, I want you to listen closely. Their championship reigns obviously are impressive, but they do not matter. Okay? They don't matter in modern wrestling history, in a WrestleMania wrestling history. Understand and listen to that very clearly. Listen to this, okay? I want you to hear this. If Roman Reigns leaves WrestleMania as champion and they keep the belt on him for a few more months, not only will he be the longest reigning champion in over 40 years, but he will be the longest reigning champion in modern wrestling history and the longest reigning champion in WrestleMania history. If you think WWE, who loves to throw out their numbers and their accolades like that in their fancy video packages, if you think that they don't want to put that on the man who has become the face of wrestling right now, you're kidding yourselves. You're kidding yourselves to say that WWE, look, WWE basically, it didn't start right then, but it became the juggernaut that it is once Vince took that chance on WrestleMania. The fact that they could sit there and say he is the longest, I mean, it's just, I don't know how you can't hear that being said and not think that that's not historic. There is no way you can undermine by what I just said by saying, well, it's not the top record. That doesn't matter. It's about how you spin it. And all WWE has to say going forward is that Roman Reigns is the longest reigning champion in WrestleMania history. Hear me say that again. Longest reigning champion in WrestleMania history. That is all they ever have to say, because that in itself is massive. And remember, that record has been going on for nearly 40 years. We are likely never going to see an opportunity like that again in our generation. What's a generation? Every 20 years? So it's been, what, 2 generations that we've seen? We're not going to see something like that unless I live to 80 or something and they try it again. It's just a chance to bring that record to a current roster wrestler. Look at Gunther with the Intercontinental Championship. The longest reign was held by the freaking Honky Tonk Man. And now they did everything right by having it be Gunther's record. You think that taking the record from Hulk Hogan, one of the biggest names in wrestling history, a name that is still a household name to this day, 40 years later, is not somehow a worthy achievement? Come on. And my final point is how badly this has all been booked, why this should not happen. And I'm going to put most of the blame, I'm going to put most of that blame on Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. I am not a fan of Dwayne Johnson. I'm not. I don't like Dwayne Johnson. I think that Dwayne Johnson is a narcissistic asshole who has for a long time put on a very fake act in Hollywood and pulled the wool over a lot of people's eyes, from making them think he's such a nice guy to somehow convincing people he's a good actor. I don't know how people are falling for it, but that man's ego is the size of the planet, okay? And his return this year should have been solely to elevate Roman in what would have been one of the biggest Mania matches of all time. And they botched that, not just because of the Cody Crybabies. You guys have your hand in that as well, but because of Dwayne's ego. This all goes back to that SmackDown where Cody steps up. He steps up and he tells Roman, blah, blah, blah. And I have my problems with that promo too. But he steps aside and The Rock hugs Cody, okay? And then he goes face to face with Roman and people are cheering and losing their minds for it. They made Cody look like an idiot. And it made no sense that why is he stepping aside, right? But then you could have just fixed that because that's where they botched it. That's where the whole thing was bungled. They never explained why Cody stepped aside for The Rock. And all it would have taken is a simple promo from The Rock. You just have Dwayne Johnson take the mic, and I want you to say, listen. And he says, listen, guys, I'm not getting any younger. I'm not. I just hit 50. I'm not in this ring constantly. I'm not in the constant ring shape. I don't know how much more I have in this tank. But this guy across from me, and you can have him point right at Roman, this guy right across from me has been ruining my family. He has desecrated our tribe's honor. He has driven a wedge between our blood. And then you can have him point right at Cody and say, and this guy here is being the biggest man that I've seen in wrestling by giving me the chance to fix this, to try to fix my family. That's it. That's it. That's all you have to have Cody. You now, not only do you make Cody not look like an idiot, you cement him as the ultimate babyface. The ultimate babyface, the guy who has shown that he is all about his family, from his dad to his brother, giving up his chance to at the belt, his chance to headline WrestleMania, to help another man try to fix his family. It writes itself. This is not rocket science. It's not that hard to book this, but that would have required a colossal feat. And that feat is for Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson to put down his ego and admit that he ain't all that. And there is no way that Dwayne Johnson could do that, because this dude legit thinks he is the fucking greatest thing on earth. All right. And then when Roman beats Rock at Mania, you could have later on had Cody come in and tell him, listen, you know, Roman, I stepped aside for Dwayne to do him a favor. And now he's doing me a favor. He's pulling every string. He's calling in every debt owed to him to book that whatever pay-per-view you need it to be once it passes Roman passing Hogan, to get me Madison Square Garden, to get you and me headlining Madison Square Garden, where my dad took superstar Billy Graham to the limit but couldn't get that belt. And that's where I'm going to finish the story, because I'm going to take your belt where my dad was not able to. That's it. That's it. There. Simple. Done. 2 fucking promos. That's all you needed. And yes, I still think that it should have been Jay. It should have been Jay booked this whole time to be Roman. But again, they clearly bungled that with having Jay split too early from the bloodline. But at least this way, you have Cody win in a way that makes sense for the story. Roman passes the record, and you, being WWE, give yourself more time, because right now, a lot of these crybabies, they just want Roman to lose, right? They want anyone but Roman. But when he does, where do they go with Cody from there? Who does he feud with? Punk is still in rehab. And I don't know if you could maybe turn him heel, but you could turn Orton heel to have them feud, which is what I thought should have been Randy's. That's what I think should have been Cody's match at Mania. It should have been Cody versus heel Orton. Instead, they've got Orton plugged into this KO versus a Logan Paul match. He feels like the third wheel. You could have had Orton turn heel and basically be shitting on Cody, being like, dude, I'm the one who made legacy. I'm the one who elevated you. I'm the master. And that is another step to having Cody cement his time in WWE. But I don't see many heels lined up for Cody. And that is the biggest thing for Cody that has honestly, truly helped elevate him, is this whole finishing the story, has been the chase. It's as old as wrestling itself, right? It's not they call it finishing the story, but it's just the chase of the babyface chasing the heel. It's having the good guy chase the bad guy. That's why The Undertaker, as much as I adore the man, he's rarely held the belt, and he rarely, and not because he didn't deserve it. He had one of the longest careers in history, but he himself has said that the Taker character has always been best when it's pursuing the adversary. And that's something that works for a lot of babyfaces. Austin, Stone Cold Steve Austin, hunting for the belt, being held back by Vince McMahon's antics, was peak Attitude Era wrestling. Finishing the story is just the same damn thing. But it's just like, what are they going to do once Cody finishes that story? And look, I get being a passionate fan, and I've been making fun of some of Cody's fan base. I say some because I consider myself as part of that fan base as well. I want Cody to be a champion, but that raging, rabid, Cody, crybaby, anyone but Roman fan is the worst shit I've seen in a while. And I think that if they get their way tomorrow, because this will be coming out today, Saturday, I think it's not only going to be one of the biggest storytelling botches in wrestling history, I think it is going to be to the ultimate detriment of Cody, because once he finishes the story, I don't think they have anything lined up for where he goes next. What's the next chapter? What's the next book? I don't know. Anyway, thank you for listening to my rant. I appreciate it, guys. I wanted to get out my thoughts on this whole storyline. I wanted to talk about this months ago. I've been wanting to talk about it for months, but I wanted to see where the hell they were going with it, and it has just been spiraling out of control. So I guess we'll see the culmination of it tonight and tomorrow. I hope either way we get an amazing WrestleMania in terms of ring quality matches. I hope you guys enjoy the pay-per-view if you guys are watching it. Please, guys, if you're not, or whatever, leave your thoughts. What do you guys think about the whole, what my rant was, the Cody story, WrestleMania? What are your predictions? Let me know everything in the comments. Let me know. I'm very excited. I'm still very excited for WrestleMania. It's WrestleMania weekend. How can you not be? Let me know. Please, guys, take care of yourselves. Stay safe. I keep telling you guys, that is the most important thing. Even more important than Roman passing the record. It's you guys keeping safe, sharing time with your loved ones. I'm going to be watching Mania with my parents and with my friends and my family. So I'm going to be sharing it with some loved ones. Go out there, hug somebody you love, tell them you love them. Take care of yourselves and stay safe.